with the trophy directly in sight. These guys are bringing their A.
Now over towards Supernova, and already early on, Taco, you can kind of see where the zone is favoring a little bit towards the north, massively towards the west. So even though Clix, Higgs, and Eomzo haven't had to rotate just yet, they can focus on trying to get as much Storm Surge as possible. They've run into trouble. There's a speed bump in their plan. On the other side of that island already, they don't have to worry about anything. Meanwhile, they have to make decisions here on this side of the zone. Do you stack up the beach coast as long as possible with different players, or do you try to make that daring play, try to get towards the center? Because who knows, if the zone goes south, that'll be a play that works out for you. But if it pulls north, if it pulls towards the east,
high layer now, shooting towards that front side of zone. It's only Clix and Eomzo. They lost Higgs somewhere along the way. Eomzo doing what he can to claim a little bit of space here next to Clix, but ideally, they're going to have to duke it out in the low ground. The moment that he tries to make a layer swap, he is immediately put down into the dirt. Clix fighting for his life still in the low ground, but he just can't hang on. Place here with Clix and Eomzo. Higgs following suit. Supernova Academy might just be claimed by these three, but Jacob, we saw so many teams. We didn't see that many surge bases in the first lobby. Almost have to wonder. Some of these IGLs finding the most optimal path for their teammates. Swizzy, Queasy, Mustache. Not gonna get too tagged up here by Eomzo, Higgs, and Clix. I'm gonna have a missed opportunity. Victor V though, that's gonna finally be a connection there from Eomzo, the future, trying to see if he can pop off here, but it's gonna be tough. They don't want to forfeit their position from each other, Jacob. The moment that Eomzo, Clix, or Higgs might realize, hey, there's a primed up opportunity here to just outright key, but doesn't seem as if
see them go down for Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache. Even Clix, Eomzo, and Higgs, that's got to be a confidence boost.
Everybody just looking like a rags to riches comparison from what we just witnessed. But Eomzo, Clix, Higgs, they're still trying to take advantage of their convenient positioning here. They're spraying all of these teams that are just stuck on the congestion inside that edge of zone. Teams that are fighting to try and lock in a little bit more surge. And Phaser, he is going to fall. Eomzo, a little bit too accurate, and Clix just still continuing steady pressure application. These teams are not able.
That's like poking the bear in the wilderness. Now something I would never do, and now they're here in this game and they're out for redemption.
The problem right now that I'm thinking about, Jacob, is Queasy loves to look for height right around this period, right around that 8th zone time frame. But with Acorn now looking much healthier, and a mastermind IGL in his own right.
Zone, they go down, and it's Queasy, it's Swizzy, and it's Mustache yet again. Not only the kings on top of the castle, but the ones lighting up the feed. Down below, a whole different ball game. Eomzo, Clix, and Higgs, they are in.
At least break into that top 5 placement, maybe. But Eomzo, Higgs, also a little bit scattered here. Eomzo's gonna fall. It's Higgs who's trying to come up big time here. Big elimination, though, for Higgs. Gonna buy him a little bit of a lifeline. He's doing everything he can to try.
Top 5. Obviously, Queasy's team pulling far ahead, but only 133 points to get into the top 5. 1 point behind is gonna be Eomzo, Clix, and Higgs, who we know a team like this can have, especially with Clix and Higgs from Xset. They're kind of the fraggers, the duo from this team. And then you got Eomzo, the IGL, the mastermind of this squad you could try to attach to. So you got to make sure you plan ahead, peek through the cone, get the information. Eomzo, Clix, and Higgs are doing just that. They're not the highest up, they're not the lowest either, but they're assessing the situation. Do we need to drop down further?
That is always what you would hope for in a team. Eomzo is sadly going to have to play it through with just Higgs, though. And this is a tough spot to be in, unless Higgs finds a big elimination for the refresh.
That was not only points for the elimination, but placement points as well, as the full trios wiped off the map. Acorn, Savage, King, Tayson, all going down. Eomzo as well, a good shot. Bases. You have an abundance of heals at the Demon's Debris. You just got to figure out a way to utilize them. It's like Clix, Higgs, and Eomzo rotating south from Supernova Academy. They were one of those teams kind of looking off into the distance, whether if it was Savage, we saw moments there, Sod and Ryu up the door.
For Proxy and Chino, that maneuver by Curly and Cooper, it's like getting an eyelash stuck in your eye. Just so annoying, but what can you do? Looking to fight back all of these international teams, they have not backed down even once throughout today's matches, Jacob, and they are coming with some big firepower. But Eomzo, the future, he's got to control the present right now, though. And with Clix and Higgs right next to him, they need to find these eliminations. All of the surge would just be so impactful.
Yeah, you can see both these teams is in a tough spot, and it's going to continue to get tougher. Multiple players on that trio are out of materials overall, and Eomzo finally dropping down. He's bringing the sun to a snowy day.
That's exactly what they needed. This is so much room to work with now. Eomzo, Clix, they just continue to close in, and finally Ryu's gonna be eliminated, folded over.
On that region of EU ever before and ever again. And this could be that moment in history that you look back at when you talk about how great Queasy actually is. It is all because of this, but there's still so many threats in their path. They just have to look up. They have to try to go for high ground and stop the plate trade. Clix, Higgs, and Eomzo, they have to
Victory Royale, they're gonna need more than just secondary height. Pump balls.
You see the materials being drained right out of their inventory. Everybody else feeling the same thing, forcing Eomzo, Higgs, and Clix to drop down low. The blessing is they're in the front side of zone, so they have a little bit more off that 50-50 drop off the side of the mountain, where you're seeing a lot of our top teams here, how they're rotating with the zone pulling towards the south. A lot of them are beating other teams to the punch. They're not taking that crowded position in towards the zone.
But this is really nice for Clix, Higgs, and Eomzo as they continue to press forward because they're approaching that mountain range overhead of Foxy Floodgates. They're coming from that north side position, pushing south. They're going to have that little bit of elevation to work with, and we've even got a nice little listening to see what Clix is getting up to.
Yeah,
They're in streaming.
yeah, look at them.
We
Look at
should
this.
shoot.
3, 2, 1. 30. Nice. Go. Let's go. Let's clash,
No,
please.
No. We feel great then.
Across the way, but Clix, Eomzo, and Higgs, they've still managed to find their footing on the side of the mountain face at Canyon Crossing.
Yeah, now they're positioned right next to Kanata. That's the knock they got earlier, where they were able to kind of accumulate a good amount of surge. Now they look towards the bottom side of that mountain. Balor, Mansour, and Adapter are the ones that are taking a lot of that focus, and they're inching closer and closer to Gabzera, Scarpa, and Way as well. Kanata knows and sees all the same things along with Rapid and Bolts if he is still there.
They have no issues whatsoever with just suppressing these lower teams.
This is their time right here to move up that leaderboard.
Same scenario taking place for Higgs, Eomzo, and Clix. And keep in mind, Jacob, these guys are still well within striking range of top 5.
Yeah, 8th place basically to end the day yesterday, and it's kind of building momentum, building confidence. These guys have all played on the globe. Sometimes without even not saying anything. Clix, Higgs, and Eomzo kind of, I wouldn't say changing up their overall strategy, but all three of them as a team, they plan towards those RBs for our success. If we can get high ground here, that could be our 4th game win. But while one team's having an easy game, Eomzo and Clix, with one of them being down, Eomzo's trying to get him back up. They have one crash pad left in their inventory.
But sad there from Mustache. He really wanted to see if he could get a good chunk out of Acorn, Agers, and Foyo on that rotate, but crash pads are out. Along with the Flowberry Fizz, Eomzo's immediately going to try to claim a position towards the front side, but holds back for a second here. A little bit split from Clix. Clix going to build right back up where his teammate's at. He needs some of these chuck splashes, but Chef and Reason seem like they're a little bit more intent on just trying to stake out these front side rotations. But for Clix and Eomzo, it's likely going to be a backside of zone play. They're going to have to find a refresh. They have hardly any materials to work with. Eomzo doing what he can.
Clix, Eomzo, Higgs, business as usual. And here's the thing about this team is they know how to fight. They know how to play for surge. And I think that's why we see them in the top 10. It's just they kind of have the little hiccups, the little speed bumps towards the end game, maybe getting a little bit too aggressive, playing as individuals, and we do see them kind of stuck as duos. This is
not the same story, though, for Clix. Visuals brazen and diminished, since it didn't work out at Rangers Ruin. They're going to have to find that surge elsewhere. And unfortunately, it's only Clix, last man standing from his team, and just being absolutely battered. There's no way he's going to be
all of those extra heals into one spot. Clix, Eomzo, Higgs, and even though Supernova Academy uncontested, they're sticking to the plan. They practice up until this point. They land over towards those RBs. They get some chests, but most importantly, it's how quick and fast you can kind of max out your...
way! They're the ones that are sitting, waiting for the battle bus to take off in the next lobby. Eomzo, Clix, and Higgs. drawing us back into Supernova Academy. But Jacob, this is
So they're making their rotations a huge focal point of their game plan as we jump on board Clix, Higgs, and Eomzo, still rotating in from the north side of the map. They're being trailed by King Phaser and PHN, which is not a comfortable feeling because King Phaser and PHN love to fight.
And it's not only that, but look at how much material they've been having to burn on their way in. Not only that, but they're also just announcing to everybody else inside of zone already that's looking back, oh, there's balls going up. But revisiting what was going down with Clix, Eomzo, and Higgs, they're actually going to be the ones to get the jump onto Asia. Razzle a little bit too isolated, and that's going to be an immediate knock.
Eomzo and Higgs, but they're not giving up. And this is a change-up with another knock. Elimination going over to Eomzo. It all comes at a cost because Clix goes down. Higgs is trying to stay alive, and he does just that. Eomzo helping save the day. They got an elimination onto Kanata. Higgs wanted to push over. He wanted to fight that fight 3v2. The rest of the team said, nah.
They're forcing their way into these edges of zones, and they just don't have anything to work with. The last of their materials being expended. Eomzo even opting to try and fall further
He knows
back.
his teammates are watching his back to try to get that loot as fast as
They
possible.
have not been faring well off spawn, and so with that trio being eliminated, well, Acorn, Aegis, Boya, you've got to look elsewhere. So where do they end up? Tackling Alex in on Resigns. That might be a recurring theme. Hard to tell just yet, but they still got to make up for so much lost time, and they're not the only ones. Eomzo, Clix, and Higgs. We've seen just how stone-faced they have been between each of these lobbies. They were starting off day 2 in that 8th place position, but they have been getting pushed line in towards the elevation of the mountain range and potentially push back other teams that might be looking to try and rotate a little bit after the fact.
I can agree with that. Clix, Higgs, and Eomzo. This time around, the zone pulling towards the north, which means they kind of have the luxury to be able to sit in their base. I believe this might have been the team that we saw.
But the north side of the zone, it's starting to pull so much congestion. Clix, Eomzo, Higgs, they want to take over the position that Curly, Reed, and Cooper currently reside in, but they don't even realize just on the other end of that box.
Games today, we saw them on high ground and they faltered. This could be third chance to charm.
But look at the amount of materials they have, Jacob. 85 builds, and that's just on Marius. They are so strongly overhead. Out of everybody else in this lobby right now, he needs someone to take out height. He needs to see Vanya Boo Boo fall from the top of it all, but Clix still trying to heal backside of zone. He's got nothing.
And they or Havoc squads letting them know, like, hey, take our energy. You guys have this. It's Eomzo, Clix, and Higgs. Different strategy this time around. Instead of sitting on top of Supernova Academy.
12th place going into game number 11. You would imagine they got to be thinking this time, we got to go for it.
But sometimes, if you let it sit too long, your plate starts to go cold, and if they don't act fast, they're gonna maybe have to watch this opportunity completely pass them by. The big thing here, too, is that Kanata and Bolts, they're not even replenishing their shields.
Please, for the bottom of these surge towers, they are made all the time. You have no shield right now?
Around on the low ground, replenishing all of the materials that they use to build that surge tower, and they're just waiting, like I said, for that knock or for an opportunity to get that 3v1 onto Rapid, whichever one comes
Max
first.
materials just about. He's still trying to finalize just the last few components. Clix, Eomzo, Higgs just creeping forward. Rapid starting to make his way up. Feels in this surge base. This is not the place to be for Clix, Eomzo, and Higgs.
Here it comes. They pop the Flowberry Fizz just in time, but Clix landing an immense amount of damage, getting Bolts down to just a sliver of HP, and they're immediately pushing over. Vivid said it, and he meant it. They are learning their lesson. 331 points. They fell outside of the top 10. 2 top teams from EU fighting. Now it's NA's chance. As in this game, you cannot expect the teams above you on that leaderboard to go down early. The level of competition inside of the top 10, I feel like, has never been high. You see them lurking around, trying to grab those extra bandages, the heals. This is going to be a 2-tick zone.
Clix, Higgs, they might just be looking to try.